The day I became the most despised man in Heron Cove Estates was the same day I finally decided to put my retirement fund to work in the most satisfying way possible. The hook? A 750 fine. That's what Veronica Caldwell and her HOA slapped on me just for sitting by the water with my daughter. What Veronica didn't realize was that I didn't just have enough money to pay the fine, I had 5 million reasons to fight her and the financial history to use them all. My name is Ethan Vance. I cashed out of the tech world at 43, looking forward to exactly one thing: peace. But life, as always, had other plans. My wife, Anna, passed last year, and it broke me. It broke our 16-year-old daughter, Lana. The only thing that even scratched the surface of our grief was just sitting by the water, quiet, reflective, the way the three of us used to. So when I bought the house here, right on the edge of that beautiful 7-acre community reservoir, I thought we'd found our quiet harbor. The realtor mumbled something about the HOA, but promised it was all standard fare, failing to mention the queen ruling over it, Veronica Caldwell. I found out exactly how bad she was on a quiet Saturday in May. Lana and I were down by the water, poles propped up, not even actively fishing, just watching the ripples. Lana was smiling for the first time in weeks. That's when the voice cut through the stillness. "Excuse me, but what exactly do you think you're doing?" Veronica, mid-50s, sharp blonde hair, designer visor, tablet clutched like a weapon. "Fishing is explicitly prohibited in the community reservoir." "That's a direct violation, Mr. Vance. The fine is $750. I tried to reason with her, pointing out that the amenity list mentioned the lake. She cut me off, her eyes cold. "The regulation was amended last month. You clearly failed to check your email." When I pressed her on why they banned such a benign activity, her voice went thin. "Environmental concerns, safety concerns, and frankly, Mr. Vance, not everyone appreciates that sort of activity when enjoying their morning coffee." Then came the subtle but unmistakable sting. "New residents sometimes struggle to adapt to our community culture. People who are more accustomed to, shall we say, different types of neighborhood." The coded language was vile, and it landed right as I saw Lana's face crumple. It was a calculated attack on my healing family, and I felt a cold, professional rage rise up. I paid the fine, but I didn't forget the look in her eye. That night, the investor in me woke up. I started pulling every public record I could find. What I discovered was a pattern. Veronica had been president for a decade. Her day job? Running Caldwell Properties, a niche luxury brokerage. I also found that the reservoir itself wasn't HOA property. It was owned by Summit Land Holdings, and the HOA's recreational lease on it was set to expire in 60 days. I quickly connected with the neighborhood dissidents: Marcus Chen, a retired city planner, and Eliza Hayes, a banking executive who'd witnessed Veronica's subtle but relentless discrimination against certain residents. They confirmed my worst suspicions. Veronica was selectively enforcing rules, finding families of color and new residents at disproportionate rates to pressure them into selling, often at below market rates, properties which were then snapped up by shell companies connected to Caldwell Properties. Now, she was after the ultimate prize. She's planning to buy the reservoir herself, Marcus confirmed. Not for the community. She wants to drain a corner, build 4 to 6 new luxury homes, and restrict access for the rest of us. Eliza added the financial key. Summit Holdings is overextended and desperate. They need cash immediately, and Veronica is the only buyer they've been talking to. I knew then what my retirement money was for. It wasn't just for stocks and bonds, it was for fighting this petty tyrant. As a VC, I specialized in distressed assets and aggressive acquisitions. Veronica was trying to conduct a hostile takeover of my community using a rulebook. I was going to use a balance sheet. The real battle wasn't on the lawn, it was in the corporate registry. While Veronica and her loyalists continued their campaign of harassment, fining my mailbox, criticizing Lana's basketball hoop, sending anonymous complaints to the county, I worked in silence. The key was exploiting Veronica's fatal flaw. She was financially overextended and desperate for the revenue from the new lakefront lots. I quickly established Vance Legacy Holdings LLC and secured a direct meeting with Summit Land Holdings. Their executive was candid. Veronica's offer was complex, tied up in financing. "We need cash yesterday," he sighed. I laid down my offer, $400,000, all cash, closing in 7 days. It was 20% higher than Veronica's deal, and the promise of immediate liquidity was irresistible to a failing company. 2 days later, the preliminary agreement was mine. I let Veronica dig her own grave deeper. She called an emergency HOA meeting, proposing a massive special assessment, an extra monthly fee for essential lake maintenance, which was really her war chest for the purchase. She used the meeting to publicly humiliate Eliza and Marcus, subtly hinting at their past financial struggles and making veiled threats against anyone who opposed her. The community was fractured, but her heavy-handed tactics were pushing more residents into my silent coalition. The closing on the reservoir was seamless. I was now the sole owner of the 7-acre reservoir and the 10-foot perimeter shoreline. Veronica was informed hours later that her exclusive negotiation period was terminated. The property was sold, and all talks with Caldwell Properties were canceled. She showed up on my porch an hour later, her composure visibly cracked. "What did you do, Vance? I know you sabotaged my deal." I smiled, keeping my voice level. "I simply heard the reservoir was available for purchase, Veronica. I hope the HOA has a good relationship with the new owner." She went pale. "The HOA has a binding recreational agreement," I countered calmly. "You should read the fine print, Veronica. It expires in less than 30 days, and renewal is at the sole discretion of the property owner." The final confrontation was set for the following Saturday. Veronica had already planned her annual Founders Day party, an exclusive, catered lakeside event for the residents who had been her loyal subjects to celebrate the community's long-term vision for the water. It was the perfect stage. As her party reached its peak, music, champagne, and about 80 people celebrating their exclusive privilege, I walked calmly to the podium with my attorney, the signed deed, and a uniformed sheriff's deputy. I'd briefed on the situation. I took the microphone. "Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you're enjoying the water." Veronica charged toward me, face blazing red. "You are trespassing. This is a private event." I held the deed high. "Actually, Veronica, I think there's been a mistake about whose property this is. Effective immediately, as the legal owner, I am terminating the recreational agreement." I handed the deed to the deputy. "Officer, you are looking at a party of people currently trespassing on private property. They have 15 minutes to vacate." The silence was absolute. The crowd turned from the water to Veronica, their faces twisting with realization and betrayal. You can't do this, she shrieked. I already have, I replied, and Officer Reynolds is here to ensure an orderly exit. After all, Veronica, you've always been such a stickler for following the rules. The party dispersed in a chaotic shame spiral, but my revenge was twofold. Using my banking contacts, I had quietly purchased the mortgage notes on nearly a dozen properties in Heron Cove, specifically targeting Veronica and her inner circle. I didn't call the debt, but I used the leverage to force the complete